I will serve crack before I serve my country.
The army and all those that are in it.
I'm a gentleman. I don't want to fight.
A lot of people who join the military are also kind of giving away a lot of rights to their bodies.
Starmer's policy on Ukraine. I'm not a fan of how much aid we send over to Ukraine. I'm not a fan of his policy on sort of interminable support for Ukraine.
I don't think British people should be fighting overseas. I think this is just a misallocation of economic resources, and we should be really looking to tax the rich and fund our public services further in this country.
Starmer said he's ready and willing to send troops to Ukraine. Is that something that you'd support?
Absolutely not.
I don't think it's a particularly wise choice. I think he's got a lot of things wrong at the beginning of his term, and it's stuff that we would have seen, that we would have liked to have seen change from the previous government. But I think his insistence on keeping troops in Ukraine is probably, or sending troops to Ukraine, I should say, is probably something that I wouldn't be very happy with. I think the situation has escalated so much recently, and with Trump's coming into term now, I understand the need for Europe and the EU to sort of get an army and to have a bit more of a security infrastructure or defense infrastructure. But I think putting troops on the ground in a country, like putting NATO troops on the ground in a country which is currently in war, is not a wise idea.
I think Starmer's policy on Ukraine, it's hard to find the right words, but I'm not a fan of how much aid we send over to Ukraine. I'm not a fan of his policy on sort of interminable support for Ukraine. I think there's better use for funds. I think it was like £3 billion is the last aid package. No, I think Britain's been involved in too many foreign wars.
I think it's a bad decision. I think we should resist the push towards further war. I think we should be looking to get peace in Ukraine, and I don't think British people should be fighting overseas.
Do you think placing troops there would be escalatory?
Yeah, I think it's only going to fuel the conflict. And also, in a current economic climate, when the current Labour government are talking about cuts, reintroducing austerity, they've already cut winter fuel allowance for all people. I think this is just a misallocation of economic resources, and we should be really looking to tax the rich and fund our public services further in this country rather than the drive to continuous war.
I mean, the US government are saying that Starmer should spend 80 billion of the UK's money on defence. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think I think we should resist pressure from a Trump administration that is continually taking an aggressive stance on the international platform. And I don't think it's up for the Trump government to dictate how British taxpayers' money is spent.
So you wouldn't be enlisting to go and fight in Ukraine?
Absolutely not, no.
I come from Serbia, which was bombed by NATO, and I think if we do see an offensive where some British troops might be getting attacked, it could be somewhat of an interpretation of Article 5, and then people might decide that they want to, defend with a NATO pact or something like that. And I just generally don't think spending on defense in this way is particularly wise.
The expansion of NATO and the expansion of the Western Bloc is nothing but an expansion of capital and a suppression. So I do not support that. It puts the world at risk of escalating tensions. One of the main reasons we're at this point in the first place is NATO encroachment on Russia's sphere of influence. Not that I support Russia invading Ukraine, but if Russia or China were doing the same shit to us, we'd have a similar reaction, I think.
Is this something you think the Ukrainians should just deal with themselves?
It's really tough. Russian aggression is obviously not good. Not a fan of imperialism in any form. But to put British troops on the ground, I don't buy into I don't buy into the narrative that Russia will take over Europe and they'll just keep expanding westward. I just don't think that's going to happen. Not because I have faith in the morality of Putin specifically, but I don't think it's Britain's. It's within our national interest to put British soldiers in there. I think the military-industrial complex is inherently predatory, especially upon young men.
I think that a lot of people who join the military are also kind of giving away a lot of rights to their bodies and their autonomy in sort of government possession of their body and their actions. And I just don't think that anyone should have to die for a country just because they're born there.
Is there anything that could happen that would make you consider enlisting in the army?
No, no. Unless it's the People's Army. But yeah, no, the army is like fundamentally white supremacist. It serves white supremacist ends, global extraction, and apartheid from the third world to the first. So no, fuck the army and fuck all those that are in it.
There's a popular meme online saying I will serve crack before I serve my country, and I subscribe to that notion.
What does that mean?
I, without incriminating myself, because I have never done anything of this sort, there is nothing that would make me sign up for Britain's military. A quick glance through Britain's imperial and colonial history will tell you that we're a country that is built on the slavery, genocide, ethnic cleansing, colonization of millions, if not billions of people worldwide. And I am completely in opposition to anything that sustains the legacy of that. And yeah, I don't agree with British imperialism and would never, ever, ever sign up to be a part of it.
Zelensky suggested a European army. What would you think
I'm
of
not about that either, you know what I mean? So it's one of those.
Would you join a European army?
Nah,
Why?
nah, no chance. Because I'm a gentleman, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to fight, you know. I want to go uni or whatever here, you know, goldsmiths in the south of London.
Just wouldn't want to put myself at risk in that sense.
I try and go through a vein of pacifism wherever possible, and try and run things that way, because I think that there should always be a solution without violence where possible.
Starmer said he's ready and willing to put British troops in Ukraine. What do you think of that decision?
I actually kind of think it's the right decision. Whilst obviously I vote Green, I'm not like a massive Labour person. I think Ukraine definitely needs our help, and anything that's like helping them fight against Russia, especially when we have like no clue what's going on with America. And I'm kind of like worried for Ukraine, and not just Ukraine, like Lithuania as well. I think it's important that we do send troops over. I don't know if I would enlist. I don't think I'm qualified, but I think it's a good idea.
Do you think it's a good thing to increase defence spending at this time?
I mean, they probably can cut a lot of Parliament things. Like they probably don't need as much tea and biscuits. And public transport is a nightmare at the moment. I think, well, Labour makes like a lot of promises about the NHS and public transport, and they haven't really delivered on that. So I don't know where they're going to get the budget from, because didn't they say we had like a 40 million hole or something?
Yeah, 22 billion, yeah.
Yes. But then the Tory party would just spend it without thinking. So that's, at least Labour is considering the fact that we have a budget. Tory party would never.